Jensen Huang CEO of Nvidia now sees 1 trillion, that is trillion with a T, in revenue through 2027. He announced this today during their GTC conference. Today we're going to go over some of the top stories that moved the market today, as well as break down the biggest announcements from Nvidia's conference today. Be sure to look over the disclaimer. Anything that you see or hear in this video, please do your own research. All right, y'all, so let's get right to it. Today was absolutely crazy to see how bullish Jensen Huang, CEO of Nvidia, is on the fact that Nvidia will still remain the king of the AI mountain. First, before we go into the GTC and some of those biggest announcements, and we'll do a breakdown. So if you're someone who's not really technical and really understanding what was discussed today, hopefully you'll watch this video and get a more comprehensive breakdown so you can just understand the gist of what was said today. So we did see a market rally Monday, which was, I think it was maybe since January. The market on Mondays have not performed very well, but today we did see a bounce higher, and a lot of that had to do with oil prices retreated from that $100 mark. So that's good to see. We're still getting mixed signals from the Trump administration, whether they're going to attack this or attack that. They're going to pull back. They're going to potentially send troops over to the Middle East. So who knows? At this point, I've stopped listening to what he has to say. I'm just kind of reading the news and seeing any confirmation on anything that's going on rather than listening to what he has to say on Truth Social, on social media, or even addressing the media. So Meta is apparently weighing whether or not they should have this massive layoff in order to fund their AI infrastructure build out. So it's bad news for Meta workers, but it might be good news for investors. So Reuters was reporting that Meta is anticipating laying off 20% or more of its workforce in order to offset its massive artificial intelligence spending plans. So like your Amazon, your Google, they have those cloud businesses that are kind of funding their spending, right? Well, Meta doesn't have a cloud business, but it does have a very profitable business in order to fund its business or its investments in artificial intelligence. But it looks like the expenses or the amount they're planning to spend is getting so outrageous, they're having to do these substantial cuts in order to kind of maintain that spending. I believe they're also buying other companies as well, I've seen recently. It says Meta spokesperson told CNBC that the report was, quote, speculative, but regardless, shares bounced today with that news. Meta also announced a new $27 billion AI infrastructure deal with Nebius, which is further reinforcing its commitment to AI dominance. And I believe within that commitment, Nebius and Meta will be purchasing some of those new chips, powerful chips from Nvidia. So that's great news for Nvidia, and we'll talk about that a little bit further. Adobe CEO is stepping down. No, Adobe stock has been down for quite some time. Shares plummeted 7% with the news today. I believe the past 2 years, the shares are down over 50%. It says stock is more than 60% off its record high from 2021. It's pretty substantial. Now I got caught into this. Last year, I thought Adobe was a value play. Turns out it was not a value play. The stock was down for a reason. And it looks like things have gotten so bad the CEO has decided to walk away. We'll talk more about Nvidia's GTC conference, but just a little bit of a teaser. Shares moved higher today, and what really ticked me off, at the top of this video, we announced that Jensen Huang went from $500 billion in revenue through 2027. Now he's projecting $1 trillion. And when that was announced, Nvidia's shares spiked. And you can look at the chart, you see this spike up, and then like 5 minutes later, uh, shares fell down to like the low of the day. Looks like it spiked to around 187, let's call it $188. Hit that area and then immediately sold off. It sucks for those of us who are long-term investors in Nvidia. They've just been holding and consolidating for quite some time. We hit $200. It was either earlier this year or late last year, and we haven't really been back there since, or been able to push higher since, even though we've got great earnings reports recently and we get announcements like this. Unfortunately, we're in an environment right now where sentiment is really low, so we're not letting anything just run. People are really taking their profits and running away. If you missed out on that nice little bounce, it's okay. I think with some of the information we'll go through later on in this video, you'll really start to be more comfortable holding Nvidia shares long term. And as I said, we'll talk about that more detail in a little bit. And the last major point today, the great rotation. So we're moving from tech to the old economy, and this is continuing to accelerate. I think it's probably going to happen until we get over this issue with Iran, but who knows? Trump will find some other reason to jump into another war, or he'll find something else that'll ruffle the feathers of the market participants. And hopefully just find something to be busy with and just sits back and just shuts up for a little bit and just let the markets do its thing. Hopefully companies that you're invested in, the first quarter is coming to an end, and those earning reports, hopefully those companies that you're invested in, I'm invested in, they continue to do well, and we can actually see the market push to new highs. But it's hard to say that right now. The market sentiment is very low. I looked at it earlier today. As far as the fear and greed index, we're in extreme fear territory. It's really not hard to understand that. It seems like anything that's out in the news right now is all negative about the market, about the economy, about geopolitical issues. Oil's moving higher. Our groceries, everything's higher. Our healthcare is higher. Not just America, just globally, things are pretty tough right now. Real estate market, it seems like it's not doing very well right now. Who knows if we're definitely probably not getting any type of rate cuts, but I would just kind of hope and pray we don't get into a situation where the Fed feels like they have to hike rates for any reason, as far as maintaining inflation or whatever the case may be. So let's just woosah a little bit, breathe in, breathe out. I've honestly been trying to stay away, not really diving into the news and listening to it 24/7. Luckily, we have March Madness coming up here soon. And I've just been long-term investing as markets go lower. Last Friday, I bought a little bit of Meta. We saw a bounce back there today. That was good to see. I've just been taking advantage of this volatility, and just be careful out there. If you're buying these dips, understand there could be something around the corner that makes the market go a little bit lower. So be careful. Don't put all your chips in the middle just now. Be patient. Number one, stay invested. Last year, the market didn't turn around until mid-April. Definitely May, and we saw that nice bounce, a nice recovery. Who knows? We're in a different situation than we were last year. So, number one, stay invested. All right, let's go over the biggest gainers and losers. We'll go over the Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ. Yahoo Finance isn't working that great for me. So I'm going to see if I can pull it up on my phone and give you guys a better idea how we performed today. Yep. So in the Dow today, Dow was up just under 1% today. The biggest movers for the Dow were Amazon, Nvidia, and Microsoft, whereas the biggest losers were Chevron, Exxon, and Boeing. S&P 500 closed just above 1%. Biggest gainers were Micron, Meta, and Peloton. Not sure why Peloton moved today. I'd have to do a little bit of research on that, but that's a name that I don't typically see or haven't seen in a while in the biggest gainers, especially in the S&P 500. And Adobe, energy stocks, and software companies continue to move lower today. The NASDAQ up almost $1.25 today. Again, Micron was the biggest gainer. Meta and Nvidia also contributed, whereas Adobe, like we said, fell significantly. And CrowdStrike and Palantir had a little bit of weakness today as well. All right, so let's go up to the GTC conference, and we'll go over day one's key announcements from CEO himself, Jensen Huang. So as we said at the top of the video, Nvidia now expects $1 trillion in revenue through 2027. So think of Nvidia as a company that makes the, quote, engines powering all of today's AI. Your ChatGPT, your self-driving cars, medical research, and much more. So last year, Jensen projected the demand for these engines would generate $500 billion in revenue in orders. Well, today he doubled that forecast. And I even think when he said that, he said that could be kind of like on the mid-tier, on the low end. It could be well above $100 trillion in revenue through 2027. And there was a packed crowd at GTC conference for some of the biggest and major companies. I believe he said at one point there was over 100 robots that were there in attendance as well, being powered by NVIDIA chips. Jensen said he expects purchase orders between its current Blackwell chips and next generation Vera Rubin platform to reach $1 trillion through 2027, doubling the $500 billion projected just a year ago. Basically, those fears that we're hearing the beginning of the year, whether the appetite for AI computing is slowing down, that is most definitely not the case. NVIDIA investors rest well tonight. We are in good hands, putting our money in a safe place with NVIDIA and Jensen Huang. So Vera Rubin chips are here. This is their next generation chips. NVIDIA's current top chip is called Blackwell, and that next one is Vera Rubin. And it's now shipping to customers today. That is good to hear. That is good to see. So Vera Rubin NVL72 represents a massive leap from its current top chip Blackwell. And now we're moving into the next chip, which is offering twice the performance of any computing chip on the market today. It says, by the way, I'm using Claude for this research. Sometimes you'll see me use Google, but when we like to do these market updates or the biggest stocks in the market today, or whatever day we're discussing, we like to use Claude going forward. So it says, think of NVIDIA like, or Vera Rubin's chip as a V8 engine to a jet turbine, moving from Blackwell to Vera Rubin. It doesn't just go faster, and enables things that simply weren't possible before. So a lot of this is Before it was building out the computing, you were purchasing these GPUs and it was training all these AI models, right? And so now it's the major focus now is about inference. And another topic as well, which we should be mindful of, is memory as well. So at Micron, we saw Micron was up 4%. Micron and these memory companies, those companies are taking off right now. But like I said, we went from training and now we're in inference. Inference is like when you're talking to a chat bot, you put in a prompt and you want to answer. Or I believe as well, inference would be these agents, these AI agents that are doing all this work for you. In order to power that, we need inference. And those chips that Nvidia is working on now is what Jensen is saying, going to be able to power the inference, and it's going to be the best chip and best computing uh, that is out there. There's a lot of competitors like AMD, some of even NVIDIA's customers, your Google, Amazon, even Meta, they're building their own chips. But Jensen is kind of doubling down and he's still saying he has the best options out there for you for the best price and the best bang for your buck. So Jensen Huang CEO also he previewed what comes after Vera Rubin, a platform called Vera Ultra, and it's slated for second half of 2027. And then we even see even further in the future, we'll see next generation after that is Feynman, GPO family in 2028. So NemoClaw. I guess now I'm not someone who's real technical. I do a lot of research to really understand what's going on, but really be able to claim I'm somebody who really understands this in and out. That is not the truth. That's why I'm using these chat bots to kind of research and really understand what Nvidia and Jensen Huang is putting out there, and why my investment is still good for the long term, and I shouldn't just be selling my and taking profits from Nvidia right now. So we're going to read this verbatim. So that Nvidia is launching of NemoClaw, an AI assistant for businesses. It says this is one of the most significant software announcements of the day. Imagine hiring a personal assistant that never sleeps, can do research, write reports, manage tasks, and talk to other software all automatically without you having to tell it what to do. So that's essentially what in quote AI agent does. NemoClaw is NVIDIA's new open source platform that lets companies deploy AI agents that execute multi-step tasks on behalf of employees, such as processing data, managing workflows, running automations, without depending on any specific cloud vendor or model provider. And I think right there is very key. And also, which is important, NVIDIA introduced security tools to ensure agents can be deployed safely inside businesses without exposing proprietary or sensitive data. That is absolutely key right there, because these businesses were very hesitant because they wanted to make sure that everything that they are putting on these platforms are safe and secure, and they cannot be, people can't steal their secret sauce and then run their own business with that information, or create their own business with the information. A major concern that has slowed corporate AI adoption was that security issue. Early partners are reported of using NemoClaw is Salesforce, Cisco, Google, Adobe, and CrowdStrike. So last year, NVIDIA spent $20 billion to license technology from a startup called Grok. And so I think NVIDIA, when you say that they purchased this company, they frown upon that, because that's not the case. Technically, what they did was they basically brought over all of their employees and brought them into the fold very quickly, and they were able to put out, I believe, a new chip, a LPU. Grok 3 LPU is NVIDIA's first chip born from that acquisition, with one core specifically designed to dramatically speed up its Vera Rubin GPUs, the Grok 3 LPX rack, which holds 256 of these Vera Rubin GPU chips, which can increase the efficiency of Vera Rubin GPUs by 35 times. And this is kind of reiterating that NVIDIA's chips are better, more powerful, and give you a better bang for your buck. And so it says, in simple terms, Grok's chips acts like a turbocharger bolted onto an already powerful engine, making AI responses dramatically faster and cheaper to run. They also announced partnerships for self-driving cars and robots. Jensen Huang declared that, quote, the ChatGPT moment of self-driving cars has arrived, end quote. And he backed up that statement with major partnership announcements with Nissan, BYD, Geely, Isuzu, and Hyundai, which are all building level 4 autonomous vehicles. And those cars are able to drive themselves in most conditions without human input on NVIDIA's Drive Hyperion platform. They also announced a partnership with Uber, and it seems like they just keep announcing layers of this because we already knew that they were partnering with Uber. Uber shares actually shot up today with that announcement, I think over 4% if you include after hours. Announcing that Uber will launch a robotaxi fleet powered by NVIDIA's Drive AV software across 28 cities on 4 continents by 2028, starting with LA and San Francisco next year. On the robotics end, Jensen Huang said he cannot think of a single major robotics company that isn't working with NVIDIA. And the conference had over 110 live robots on the show floor to prove their partnerships. And as a bonus, NVIDIA even announced plans to put its Vera Rubin chips into space-based data centers, taking AI infrastructure off the planet. So right now it seems like we're running out of space, or it's hard to find places to build these massive data centers. And so it sounds like, and this is kind of crazy, it's sci-fi stuff, they're going to be able to build data centers in space, and those will be powered by Vera Rubin chips. So pretty cool. Kind of summing up the big picture, it says NVIDIA started as a video game company. Today it is the backbone of artificial intelligence worldwide. And Jensen Huang used GTC 2026 to make the case that we are still in the early innings and that NVIDIA is still the cream of the crop. A $1 trillion revenue forecast, chips going in space, robots all over the place, and self-driving cars in 28 cities with major partners. It says the message was absolutely clear. NVIDIA is no longer just a chip company, it is an infrastructure layer of the modern world. So definitely do your own research. If you're not invested in NVIDIA, I mean, it's not expensive in terms of valuation. As of right now, forward PE, NVIDIA, forward PE of 22 times. That's not that expensive at all. I want to say like an average for the S&P 500 is around 18 times. Historically, this is pretty cheap over the past year or so. Yeah, I haven't seen 22 times. I see 25 times, 32 times, 40 times, 25 times, and 28 times over the past 3 to 5 quarters. So you're getting it at a pretty fair price. Unfortunately, right now, market sentiment is pretty low. But when we do get back bullish, which we will in the future, I believe, or if market sentiment flips from being out of favor tech and tech kind of takes the lead again, NVIDIA is going to be one of those companies that shares more than likely will move to 200, 250 bucks, maybe even $300 a share, maybe within the next year to year and a half. So I'm still keeping Nvidia in my portfolio. It is the largest investment in my portfolio, and I sleep very well knowing my money is in good hands. All right, hope you guys enjoy this video. See you on the next one.